Hi, this is Prue. Today we're going to have another of the conversations about connection and belonging as the pathways back to Avalon, to the new work and to our birthright as magical, powerful human beings, and our birthright as vibrant, authentic, joyous, meaningful, living beings. It's an opportunity to share different perspectives about what connection and belonging mean and how different people's work supports others to find their connection and belonging. And today we're talking to Prue Blennerhasset of Women of Impact.
Thank you, Karen. It's so beautiful to be here having this, conversation with you. I love having meaningful conversations. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. I love those conversations as well. And perhaps you will start with you doing a bit of an introduction to your work. I've known Prue for many years now and watched the kind of changes in her business, and where she's at now is just so inspiring. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you, beautiful. Yeah, I think we met, was it like 5 years ago or something now at a sacred weekend, witchy weekend, which was, really beautiful. So the work that I do, my business is called Women of Impact, and the work that I do is supporting women to package their brilliance and craft a kind of high-end offering which is around their soul work, and to be able to scale that. So really being able to step into the fullest expression of who they are, and what they offer the world. So that has been, a big part of my journey has been, coming to a place of being more and more fully expressed. And to me, that is what this life is all about. So, that's me and what I do in a nutshell.
And how do you create that, help create that for other women? How do you create it for yourself, and then how do you help other women to create that?
So creating what in particular?
The connection to their brilliance, I think.
Okay.
And I think from my understanding, a lot of your work is about coming into full sovereignty and full power and authenticity. And that's, very much the work that the message that you talk about in your
Absolutely.
offerings. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, the brilliance is already there, of course. So it's really a matter of removing the pieces that are not the truth, if that makes sense. So, the underlying kind of factor in the work that I do with women is to support them to embody their divinity. So to be able to come to a place of really deep understanding of who they are at their core, and this, magnificent kind of combination of their energy, their education, and their experience. So many women that I connect with feel like they'll be ready to do their sacred work in the world once they get one more qualification, just one more qualification, one more training, and I'll feel like I'm ready. I'll feel like I have enough to be able to offer. And what is often overlooked is that the most crucial and the largest part of who you are and what you offer to the world is your energy.
It's true. It's that sense of unworthiness and not enoughness. Like, I just need another qualification. And so in that way, there's a kind of a disconnect with who our true powerful selves are. And your work, do you want to talk a little bit about what your work is and how that helps women to, because you work with women, and how you work with women in order to find that brilliance, to uncover that brilliance and let go of that unworthiness.
Yeah, absolutely. So like underlying, you know, kind of the undercurrent, I guess, of all of the work that I do comes back to this sense of worthiness for women. Like you hit the nail on the head. It's all about this sense of worthiness. And I was actually even just down at the bank opening up an account, and the, you know, the lady there was asking me about the work that I do, and she kind of joked and said, "Oh, you know, can you get us a better wage, or you know, a wage rise or something like that?" And I said, "Oh well, it's interesting because the undercurrent of all the work I do is around worthiness." And that all obviously comes back to a place of us recognizing our own value, of us owning our worth and our value, and then claiming it powerfully in the world, because no one else is going to gift you a sense of value. It's something that must be claimed, that we have to recognize and see in ourselves in order to be able to be that in the world and command that. And that's not commanding by taking away from anyone else. That's simply commanding as a sovereign being in this world that this is what we're worth, and we're going to stand in the power of that.
Yes, yes. And by claiming that, then we actually serve others better. We know we had a brief conversation before we started in claiming our own worth or taking care of ourselves, and our self-care is actually a way, the way that we can support others and are actually of service.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was something that you might speak
Absolutely.
to a little
Yeah.
more.
So this sense of, you know, we were talking about this sense of, you know, doing our own inner transformational work being seen as a luxury by some. And to me, it's, you know, probably one of the greatest things that we can do to be of service to others is to, you know, do our own transformational work, because the more that we step into our own power, the more that we step into our own sovereignty and our own worthiness, the more that, so I kind of see it as, and hope I don't go off track, so you pay attention to where we are in the story, but the way I see it is that when we are, you know, in a space of, you know, kind of resisting things, like hiding from things, you know, having things that we don't quite like or don't want people to see, and we're pushing them down, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to resist and to hide and to push away. And the more and more whole that we become, the more sovereign that we become, the more that we step into our power and allow those things that are there to exist rather than resisting them, the more energy that we have, both for ourselves and then also for everyone else in our lives.
Yeah, you haven't gone off track at all. I understand there's this idea that, you know, to resist and to hold back actually requires a lot of energy, and it's energy better spent or of far more value in actually doing the transformative work. And then also that energy can go out in service to the collective or service to the planet. And, you know, each of us has a slightly different focus on how we're in service. And so, you know, I think something would be really lovely for you to speak to is some of the what you've witnessed with some of your clients. I mean, that would be really, you know, a lovely thing to hear about. And I know from some of looking at your webpage you've seen, or your social media, that women who have worked with you have had extraordinary transformations in their work.
Mm.
So would you speak to that a little?
Yeah, of course. So it's interesting because, you know, like obviously working with women to support them to launch and scale their soul work, I would expect to see results in terms of income and impact and things like that, you know, like how many clients they're working with, the depths of level of work that they're doing with their clients, how much money they're earning, and all those kinds of things. And they are, you know, I love receiving the messages and the you know, and the hearing the feedback about the fantastic things that are happening in my clients' lives in terms of the, you know, the income and the impact. I've had women that have begun working with me and then, you know, a month later have gone on to sell 40K in their group program, you know, their launch of their group program, that kind of thing, and things like that. One woman has gone from charging by the hour, given it was, you know, a good kind of consulting rate, $250 an hour, to, you know, selling her first 20K package, and then her first 45K package, and then just selling her 90K package. So, you know, being able to really articulate, own the value first, and then being able to articulate the value of that transformation, whether it's for another individual, and that's in a business sense or a healing sense or whatever it is, or whether it's to a, you know, a business or a larger organization. It's all about being able to communicate the value, and it's all about them as well. And I had something else to say, but oh yes. So what I wanted to say was the, you know, the impact and the income are the obvious kinds of results. But what I also love, and has been really surprising to me, has been to hear some of the other impacts, like the more relational impacts. So I've had women that were working with me at the end of last year in particular. I remember their feedback around the work that we were doing, and it was in reflection to these shifts around worthiness, right? And these women were coming back to me and saying, I just had a conversation with my father that I never would have thought that I would have had. I just had a connection with him that I never would have dreamed possible in this lifetime, kind of thing. And it's as a result of that shift around their worthiness and things like that. So a lot of conversation around changes in relation to relationships with parents, with children, with spouses, all of this kind of stuff. Because when we become more of who we are and we step into that sense of self-power and sovereignty, we are then able to reflect that to those around us. And our boundaries are much more clear and loving. You know, there isn't this kind of this strange push-pull dynamic, which can often happen when we're feeling, you know, this sense of, oh, I'm not good enough. It's kind of like then we're looking for things from outside. But when we've got this sense of validation that comes from within us, then we can have a much more balanced relationship with everything in our lives, because we're not looking for anything outside of us to fill the void that we're feeling.
And it really brings it back to, you know, as within, so without, like, you know, what we're creating in our internal worlds is actually being reflected in our outer worlds. And, you know, and so many have this massive wound around worthiness and not enoughness and not being lovable or not being lovable enough. And, you know, if only this study, if only this other thing. And so I think one of the things that I have some, you know, brief questions here. And if you're going to give one tip today of whether someone was going to work with you or not, just like one tip today that could make a difference to that sense of, you know, bringing it back to the theme of connection and worthiness is becoming more connected with your true self. And one tip today that you would give about how we might do that.
So I think that it's kind of going to look a bit different for everyone, but as an example, some of the ways that I feel more connected is and you know, so it's about, I think, everybody recognizing what that means for them. So just, you know, a moment of self-inquiry and going, what is it that has me feel connected, more connected with myself? Because we know that when we're more connected with ourselves, then, you know, everything kind of flows from that. So for me, being out in nature, whether I'm getting to be barefoot on the ground because it's a lovely day, or whether it's rainy and sludgy like it is today, and I'm just out there breathing the fresh air and, you know, appreciating a tree, whatever it is, being in nature, playing with my puppy. If I get down on the ground, I've shared this a bit, but if I get down on the ground and I'm kind of on my back and I'm looking up, I instantly move into a state of playfulness and curiosity and wonder, and that's an incredible open space for me to be in. So these are some of the things that support me to feel more connected, more like my true self, you know, that sense of the innocent kind of spirit that exists within me and around me as well. So being able to be in that space has me appreciate myself as well as everyone else, and all that we are a part of.
Yeah, and you touched on something that I think is a really precious message. Is it's not trying to change who we are. It's actually taking away the bits that are not ours, that are not us, in order to become more who we really are. To have that sense of belonging within, and that connection with who we really are, and let go of the bits that are kind of not us. And there's the things that we do for ourselves, and there's also the need that we also have to be with others, and that can look like different things as well. And before we started the call today, we were talking about how much joy and how it touches our soul when we have our little regular craft sessions. And there's just something about women gathering and crafting, and it's something very grounding. And would you like to talk about your experience of that? Because it's something that you and I do that together. But it links to your work as well, in that it feeds your soul, it feeds my soul. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it feels very sacred, and I think there's, as a woman, I really gain an incredible amount from being in the company of men, but equally there's something different, and equally remarkable and special that I get from being in the company of women. So whether that's being in circle with women, whether it's being doing my work with women, or if it's coming and spending an afternoon crafting and drinking chai with you, there's something so incredibly nourishing about that. And I think it's Brene Brown that says something about we move things from our head to our heart through our hands. Through this sense of working with our hands, it's almost like we get to make sense of the world. It's kind of like we're bringing a focus in front of us, not too far away from us, but right in front of us, and using that creative side of things. And it's almost like my understanding or sense is that it's almost like we allow things to reorganize in our brains and in our fields just by being there and in that space of presence and community.
Fabulous. You've explained that. You've explained that beautifully. And we're probably coming towards the end of, we wanted to keep these conversations rich and juicy, but not too long. And so we're probably getting to the point to wind the conversation up. But what I'd like to do before that is give you the opportunity to talk about how people can reach you. And I know that you've got a fabulous program coming up, so perhaps you will wrap up with that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Karen. So we've got a free 7-day Evolve Method retreat coming up at the end of April. So it's starting on the 25th if you're in the States or Europe, and it's starting on the 26th if you're in Australia. And it's a 7-day free retreat. Each session runs from 35 to 60 minutes each day. So there's a training each day. There's heaps of support. So it's really high touch, high service, as is everything that I like to do. And so there's support throughout the 7 days for implementation, so that you can take the learnings and really implement them in your own business. So it's really the method that I've used to develop my own soul work, that which I support other women with, and to really be able to scale to essentially beyond kind of 6 figures doing that. So I would love to invite anyone to join us who really feels like they'd like to step more into their soul work or expand what they're already doing, and step more into the fullest expression of who they are. So the kind of website or the link is womenofimpact.com.au/retreat.
Okay, thank you. It sounds divine. It's free, and it's at the end of April. So
Yeah, it is. And it's very high value. So at the end of the last retreat, we had just women going, oh my God, this was just phenomenal. So if you can get there, yes, I would very much welcome anyone.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Prue.
Thank
It's
you.
lovely talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, I wish you well on this retreat. It sounds fabulous, and I hope lots of people join.
Thanks, darling.
Okay.
Thank you so much.